Hello and good afternoon or good morning, wherever you come from, to everybody who has had the chance to join our workshop on how to shape the education for a sustainable bioeconomy. And my name is Iris Lewandowski. I'm from the University of Hohenheim in Stuttgart, Germany, and I'm also the chair of the European Bioeconomy University. Today's workshop, it is my turn to moderate, but I'm doing this together with Inga Jansik, who is also here with you.
Yes, also a warm welcome from my side to our education workshop. I am from the Forschungszentrum in Jülich and a member of the Bioeconomy Science Center, and we have being founding member of the community of practice for bioeconomy education. And today I will take over the role as a rapporteur, and we will have a second education session on Wednesday morning. And then Iris and me will shift our task, and that means Iris will be today much more active than I am, but I try to really wrap up all our information and also to jump in whether we have missed something or whether I find something in the chat which might be interesting. So we will do it bilaterally and actively, and looking forward to have a nice workshop together.
Yeah. And on the slide, you can see that it was not only Inga and me who were organizing this workshop. We have a lot of colleagues that helped us to organize this workshop, and you will all meet them in the different sub-sessions that we will have later after this plenary. So what is our agenda for today? So first we will have a plenary session that has started now, and we will have some input presentations that will also then motivate the sub-workshops, which will then start after our plenary session directly, and which will take about 1 hour, and that is really the part where all of you also come to work, hopefully. And finally, we will have a quarter for wrapping up, so we will all come together after that sub-workshops into a plenary room again, and to wrap up and to report each others about the results of the sub-sessions. So what is the main of our workshop? The main aim is actually to assess how tertiary education programs could be developed to educate bioeconomy graduates that meet the range in expertise that is required in the circular sustainable bioeconomy, which we always will be abbreviating now with CSB, and the workforce, including the need for system changes which cannot support the transition to a sustainable bioeconomy. So our goals are manifold. First, we would like to identify the gaps in bioeconomy education, which is presently offered by universities or training courses outside universities, capacity building initiatives, and also global communication in bioeconomy education, training, and capacity building, which need to be addressed. In this workshop, we also want to discuss the pros and cons of specific disciplinary focused programs with a CSB overview versus more general bioeconomy programs that impart knowledge, understanding, and system thinking across different disciplines in circular and sustainable bioeconomy. We also want to address how lifelong learning concepts can be delivered to support the career pathway in CSB, and we would like to identify different expectations that are there nationally, regionally, and globally for the expertise in the circular sustainable bioeconomy workforce. Also, we would like to identify strategies to better integrate CSB in educational programs by, among others, linking teachers with practice partners in order to understand the demands of the future workforce, and thereby not only raising the awareness of school pupils on CSB, but also possibly influencing their career choices. When we have discussed that and identified these needs, we will, after the workshop, develop recommendations and a written report, and also an opinion paper of the results of this workshop. We have 6 sub-sessions, and I don't want to read them out now by every title, but I would rather let now the people talk, the colleagues that will give a teaser input presentation about every of these sub-sessions, so that you can also make your choice in which sub-session you would like to participate. And our row of input talks will be started by Dr. Melanie Mikos-Wersching. She's Managing Director of the Center for Synthetic Biology at the Technical University in Darmstadt, and the sub-workshop is organized together with Nicolas Krink, who is head of the steering committee of GASB, the German Association for Synthetic Biology. And Melanie, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So welcome to this workshop. The topic of the breakout session A deals with education in synthetic biology. Synthetic biology is applying engineering principles to biological systems and connects therefore many different disciplines ranging from electrical engineering, chemistry, material science, physics, computer science to biological sciences, and reflects therefore the need for real interdisciplinary education. Actually, STEM education is already established here. We are educating students in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in an interdisciplinary and applied approach. In contrast to conventional biotechnology, synthetic biology is combining well-characterized and standardized components at the molecular level. New methods like the CRISPR-Cas system, which are used in this process, and the possible applications cover a wide range, like intelligent biosensors for in vivo or point-of-care diagnostics, like the production of complex chemical compounds or optimized proteins and enzymes, new biocompatible materials, new regulatory mechanisms for more robust plants and microorganisms, and the generation of electrical engineering. The substantial advances of synthetic biology in the past years will have a significant impact on future economics, societies, and our daily life, like including what we eat, where, medicines we take, and fuels we use. The economical impact is calculated by an actual McKinsey report called the Biorevolution to be up to 4 trillion a year over the next 10 to 20 years. During our sessions, we discuss and highlight different educational concepts based on the experience in the synthetic biology community. These are needed for a circular, sustainable bioeconomy. The main questions are, like, what technical content and skills need to be taught for the future bioeconomy? Which elements must be taught and which depth should they have? Does this need to be decided for each discipline specifically, or is there a common standard? What skills and mindsets are required beyond technical skills? Our panelists are representing various international backgrounds of education in synthetic biology, including educators as well as students. So today we have Will Wright, who is IGEM Director of Entrepreneurship, Jake Wintermute, which is Head of Synthetic Biology at the Center for Interdisciplinary Research in Paris, Ron Dai, who is Professor for Synthetic Microbiology at the University of the Philippines, Ali Wang, who works with Biobits, which is a brand of the company Mini PCR, Julie Legault, who is founder and CEO of Amino Labs and author of the book From Zero to Genetic Engineering Hero, Justice Walker, who is assistant professor at the University of Texas at El Paso of STEM education, and Heribert Valzecher, who is professor for plant biotechnology at the Technical University in Darmstadt. So I'm looking forward for a very interesting discussion and hope to see you in our workshop A. Thank you for listening. Iris?
Yes, I'm. Sorry, it took me a little bit of time coming back through all the clicks, but here I'm back. Thank you very much, Melanie. So if you would like to talk about or discuss capacity building for the technical side of bioeconomy and meet Melanie again, you will have to choose later for sub-workshop A.
Maybe just a short hint, you will see it as room 1 and not as room A. So it's now in the choosing the rooms, in the breakout rooms, they will be numbered, and in this case it would be 1.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that hint, Inga. And this will also, of course, be relevant for all other workshops to follow. And now I would like to switch over to our next input presentation, which then will address a sub-workshop 2, I would say, B or 2. And here we have Dr. Han van Osch from the Center of Expertise Bio-Based Economy, Avans, and the Outside University of Applied Science in the Netherlands. And Han will present some slides.
Thank you very much, Iris. Yes, my name is Han van Osch. And as Iris already mentioned, I'm working at the Center of Expertise Bio-Based Economy, Avans and HZ, University of Applied Sciences. Next to that, I'm also one of the people that started the European Community of Practice Bioeconomy Education, the COP Bioedu, to make it more easy. One of the organizers of the workshop. One of the goals of the COP Bioedu is to stimulate that we share the good practices and experiences with each other. Multi and interdisciplinarity are important concepts which should be discussed between educational actors. I prepared this workshop together with Inga Jansik. And I'm going up. I have to take the right slide, of course. I'm now at slide number 2. I have a lot of experience in disciplinary, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary education, and I would like to elaborate it shortly on one project in which I and with a team we built up a new major within Avans, and what's called Bio-Based Technology and Chemistry. This major prepared students for the work in the bio-based domain, but at the end the students were chemists or they were chemical technologists. They got knowledge and learned skills from both disciplines, but had to integrate the knowledge themselves. The question is, did we provide the course in a multidisciplinary or an interdisciplinary way? I leave the answer open for now. That's something for our sub-workshop. Because that is what we will focus on in the sub-workshop. We are going to address the difference between multi and interdisciplinarity. To reveal a little bit of what will be said, the one is not per se better than the other. The contents, and I have to go. To reveal a little bit of what will be said, the one is not per se better than the other. The context and the goal of what we are doing is important. It determines, of course, the direction of the education. Next to that, we will also focus on the perspective of the companies. Which need do they express when we ask them how the future professionals should be educated? Do they need specialists who also have generalistic competencies? Or do they need generalists who also have specialistic knowledge and skills? That's going to slide 4. We have 2 speakers during our sub-workshop. Elsbeth Spelt, who is from the Wageningen University and did her promotion research on interdisciplinary thinking in higher education. She will introduce us in the world of multi and interdisciplinarity, as she has a lot of experience in this field. What is the difference between the two? What's the consequence of the choice for the education? The other speaker is Douwe Frits Broens, a colleague of mine in the Center of Expertise Bio-Based Economy, and he will address the second issue. What do companies ask for? Do they ask for specialists or do they ask for generalists? And we will discuss a lot of questions, of course, which might be interesting for all of us. What is your knowledge and experience, you as a who will join us hopefully, on multi and interdisciplinarity? What is your opinion on the education from now, the current education? Do we need interdisciplinarians, people who are interdisciplinary educated? Do we need specialists? Do we need generalists? What does the job market ask for? How are different specialists working together on a complex problem like the bioeconomy? And are the students equipped for their tasks? That's an important question as well. Participants who would like to dive further in the world of multi and interdisciplinarity are kindly invited to join us. So let's see each other in a moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Han. I think Iris is trying to read.
And I don't know why I need always 6 clicks to come back to the screen. Maybe the organizer can help me with that. So yeah, thank you, Han, a lot. Interesting to talk about interdisciplinary versus multidisciplinary education, or how to bring it together. Let us please go to the next presentation. And here I need the next slide, please. I can't steer it now from my desktop. Yes, thank you. In the next workshop, which will be about skills and knowledge requirements for system changes, the input presentation will be given by Dr. Sophie Urmitzer from the Department of Innovation Economics at the University of Hohenheim, Stuttgart, Germany, and Sophie is also the head of the coordination office of Bioeconomy Research Baden-Württemberg, and I think Sophie has prepared a video for us.
Lewandowski and Jan Lask of the Department Bio-Based Resources in the Bioeconomy at the University of Hohenheim, and by myself. We base the content of this session on relatively recent research within our group. So you might ask yourself, why are we talking about system change? Well, the Global Bioeconomy Summit in 2015 identified the key role of bioeconomy as a transformative strategy for advancing the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. There is ample evidence that global sustainability challenges addressed by the SDGs must be considered systemic outcomes of unsustainable patterns of production and consumption. This fact makes sustainability challenges wicked, which means that they have multiple causes, no optimal solutions, and they are so deeply rooted in our habits and daily lifestyles that they are extremely hard to be tackled. In the same vein, the International Advisory Council of the Global Bioeconomy Summit 2 years ago describes the bioeconomy as a dynamic and complex societal transformation process. So in order to establish a sustainable bioeconomy, we will need someone to address the contemporary problems by effecting fundamental changes in the current societal and economic systems. However, we are all part of these unhealthy systems, right? And this makes changing them a quite complicated task. For we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them, a famous quote which has been ascribed to Albert Einstein. So if we really want our future bioeconomists to contribute to solving those wicked problems, we must teach them to think differently. A powerful concept of such different thinking has been developed by educational scientists and adopted by sustainability scholars, and it's called transformative knowledge. There are essentially 2 dimensions to transformative knowledge. It includes an inner change by reflecting personal assumptions and challenging established paradigms. But on the other hand, transformative knowledge also entails the ability to effect a change outside by designing political strategies or to combat sustainability problems. For the education of bioeconomy protagonists, we deem it essential to consider both dimensions, the change of the personal perspective as a basis for the ability to change the surroundings. With view on designing or improving tertiary bioeconomy education, we will discuss in this parallel session C what our plea for more transformative knowledge implies. The two basic questions we want to address are, firstly, what kind of knowledge and skills will be required to effect a system's change? And secondly, how can we integrate these skills in existing or future bioeconomy curricula? We will have 3 short impulse presentations from international experts, after which we aim to collect ideas from the participants regarding the what and the how. So we will discuss, for example, what skills are necessary for systems changes. The ability maybe to make explicit the personal worldviews and those of others, or courageously challenge research paradigms, think outside the box, or think creative and like an entrepreneur. On the more practical level, we will be grateful for contributions regarding how to motivate for personal change, how to integrate transformative knowledge in existing curricula, and how to overcome institutional barriers and convince the administration. And also we will talk about what kinds of formats would serve the purpose. So we would be happy to have you on board at our parallel session for the next 60 minutes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sophie. So if you want to discuss about system changer, then you need to choose for plenaries for parallel session 3. And here, please, I ask you to go 1 slide ahead, going to sub-working group D or 4. Can you please, now I have it again, I have the control. And here in the sub-working group, sub-workshop 4, we will talk about interfacing industry requirements, megatrends, and bioeconomy education's top-down and bottom-up movers and drivers. And some motivation for this workshop will be provided to you by Professor Andreas Romarius. He's Professor of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering at Georgia Tech in Atlanta in the United States. And he brought us some slides, and the word is yours, Andreas.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to this presentation here. I would like to discuss a case study that happens to be at my own university, in my own department in chemical engineering at Georgia Tech. And as the first sort of view, I'd like to introduce myself. I was educated in chemistry and chemical engineering at TU München and MIT, and have 10 years experience in industry at Degussa, what's now Evonik, and now 20 years in chemical and biomolecular engineering at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is a very large public university in Atlanta, Georgia, a very large metropolitan area, 5.5 million inhabitants. We are the largest engineering college in the US and do need federal grants. So in other words, we're a research-intensive university. That's our main business. Interestingly, Georgia Tech is divided up into institutes alongside the departments. And the relevant one for our discussion here is the Renewable Bioproducts Institute. It's important to understand that Georgia in the southeast of the United States is the largest pulp and paper generating state within the United States. So renewable bioproducts in our neck of the woods means dealing with wood residues and wood-related products. Up in the Midwest, for instance, this would be quite different, where you have a lot of corn or grains such as wheat, and so your resource base looks completely different. The department that I'm in, Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, is now the number 5 overall in the United States and number 2 for the undergraduate program, according to US News and World Report of this year. We are a large department, and interestingly, we are 50-50 male-female, and we have 20% so-called underrepresented minorities. So we are a very diverse department in many aspects. I'm now trying to move the slides and have to find the right buttons to do that. I'm not finding this. Oh, here we go. What do I do to advance the slides? Yeah, thank you. If you do that for me, that's great. I only have 3 slides. The interesting, so we introduced in 2003, and I was an important member on that committee, a so-called biotech option track. But we kept it under 1 degree program, the Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering. And since 2003, we have not changed very much of that biotech option track. The other key feature, besides staying under the same umbrella degree as the standard program, is that we require our undergraduate students to take all required courses. So in other words, we are not generating what we call a chemical engineer light format, and that was exactly the right strategy. We currently have about 25% of our undergraduates in that biotech option program, and they essentially have to pick electives from a list. Some are mandatory, such as bioprocess engineering, or a full year of biochemistry and 1/2 a year of cell biology. Others they can pick from a list of electives. And beyond that list of biotech option electives, we have additional ones such as sustainable chemistry or forest products that they can take. If you advance to the 3rd slide, please. Now, what are the key features that make this a success? I think there are 2 that stand out. I still want to move the slide forward. Thank you. First of all, as I said, 25% of our undergraduates pick the biotech option track. The elective courses are always full. We have wait lists. The student feedback is extremely clear that they consider this biotech option track a transformational experience for their career. And so we feel that that by itself would motivate the success of this track. On the other hand, we also get feedback from employers, and that feedback in the United States is usually very strong and very direct. And we find that 25% of all the degree holders in chemical and biomolecular engineering take jobs in the bioeconomy. Now, these 2 groups of 25% are not always congruent, because our biotech option track also delivers a lot of students into pharma, and a lot of students in the standard track still take jobs with a lot of employers that expose them to the bioeconomy. The employers range from chemical companies such as BASF, Evonik, Dow, and DuPont, all the way to oil companies like ExxonMobil. They are much more involved in the bioeconomy than people think, all the way to natural resources companies such as Georgia Pacific or Weyerhaeuser, that are a lot less known in Europe, but play a very important role in shifting to a bioeconomy in the United States. So we regard that model as a success, and I invite you to join the sub-workshop to talk about such experiences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Andreas. And everybody who would like to discuss your case study with you would have to choose for sub-workshop number 4. I would like to go ahead and to a totally different subject on and a different for next sub-workshop E or 5. And that is the question, do current regional or national perspectives shape education for a circular, sustainable bioeconomy? And we are very happy that Ahmed Fahmy from the Unesco is here with us and will motivate this workshop for you.
Any chance? I kept on authorize.
think you are arriving. Here you are, and I draw myself back. Okay.
So, okay. So you can see me and you can hear me.
Yes, both.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Iris. I will just basically make some statements. But the first one is to say that only a handful of countries operate the principle of a circular economy to reuse and recycle common materials, and there are even fewer countries who are operating a circular bioeconomy, as this requires know-how, technological resources, and advanced scientific research, principally in the life sciences, in engineering, and in biotechnology. As we heard, as you said in the beginning, the challenge is to develop the workforce which has the capacity to answer or to respond to this circular, sustainable bioeconomy, and to, in a way, to respond to the needs or to meet the 2030 UN Sustainable Development Agenda. UNESCO main mission is to create and to promote basically programs that can bridge the huge gaps in scientific knowledge and technological skills that exist between regions and countries at different economic trajectories. Hence, we strongly support the aim of this project. First, there is the issue of which are the actual scientific or technological topics that need to be focused on for a productive bioeconomy. If one looks at sustainable materials, especially biomaterials such as bioplastic, biomass, or even bioproducts, that we heard, synthetic biology, which are the first level on which the circular bioeconomy operates, it is obvious that countries need to know how to design these biomaterials that are recyclable and reusable based on environmentally sustainable practices. I can say that, for example, graduate degree programs in green chemistry is a very good case in point here. Utilization of something like phosphogypsum, which is an industrial byproduct, which accumulates at extremely large quantities, is a good example of a sound environmental protection bioeconomy project. Second, we should also look into systems that can encourage regional cooperation in the bioeconomy. Whilst universities are vital in providing education, another model which is being used for new paradigms like the bioeconomy is to putting together education, training, and research under one roof. This is taken for granted in many rich countries, but in low and middle income countries, this model is still at its infancy and evolving in some countries. These models have helped to support advanced research where national universities could not undertake for reasons of bureaucracy or administrative limitations. And these basically centers, or centers of excellence, what UNESCO likes to call them, became capacity building hubs, attracting scientists and basically engineers from neighboring countries. The bioeconomy, whether it's focusing on food value chain or the bioindustry, is also very amenable for stronger university industry links. The notion of co-design of curriculum or co-design of biotech parks is imperative in trying to promote education in bioeconomy. There is a need, of course, for diversification of the qualification, mini bachelors, mini masters, sandwich programs. There's also a need to diversify the teachers or the faculty, and also the learners that are always looking to reskill, upskill, or enroll in lifelong courses. UNESCO has been supporting the concept of education for sustainable development, started in schools, in primary and secondary schools in the early 1970s, but recently has evolved into higher education and tertiary education through this concept which is called sustainability science. And I think, we could look at bioeconomy from that prism. Finally, I would like to say that, UNESCO has been involved in the education component of the bioeconomy from the start during the Global Bioeconomy Summits here in Berlin, and I fully support the endeavor of these workshops to move ahead with this agenda. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have another sub-workshop for which the motivation input will come from Dr. Judith Beichtinger from the Center of Social Innovation in Vienna, Austria, which is a social scientific research institute. And Judith is also coordinator of a Bloom project, about which I don't want to say more at this point, but let Judith talk about it.
Okay, thanks a lot for the introduction, Iris. It's very nice to meet you all. Actually, we were a team of 4 who organized this workshop, but my name is only here because my task is to make you very curious for workshop 6. And in this workshop, we will go beyond tertiary education and include also primary and secondary education. And we will discuss the potential role of educators. And we think that's very important. How can I advance? I thought it should be possible. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now I can. Okay, and we think that is very important because circular sustainable bioeconomy has not found its way into primary and secondary education yet, at least not in the European Union. And teachers have a very important role, and education and engagement of teachers needs to be involved also in this discussion, in our opinion, because teachers can even earlier contribute to raising the awareness of pupils, and very important also for providing future jobs in bioeconomy. They might influence the pupils' decisions about their vocational training or even what they're studying. So it's really important. And teachers need to be provided with respective pedagogical resources, with teaching methods and knowledge. And now that we have established the why we think it's important, we want to let you know where we come from, because the team who organized this workshop and me, we are active in this Bloom project. So me and my colleagues were coordinating the project. And in this Age 2020, a European project which aims at raising awareness on bioeconomy, one of the core activities was establishing a school network, which was led by our consortium partner, European SchoolNet. She will also be in the workshop and discuss with us. And in this Bloom School Network, 20 teachers from 10 different countries, you can see them in green, were invited. They're teaching STEM classes, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And they met 3 times before Corona, of course, and co-created and elaborated together new bioeconomy teaching resources, the so-called Bloom School Box. They then tested them in their classes, they improved them, they provided feedback on their implementation, and they even held trainings for teachers in their schools and in the countries. And all of those materials that were elaborated are also available on our webpage. So if you're interested, please check it out. And then I try to go to the next, yes. And then the Bloom School Network reached out even further. They implemented a massive open online course where there were a lot of participants, and 264 participants even graduated. And you can see in the table where the teachers and people that participated came from. And they organized 2 competitions where competitors were invited to make new teaching materials, but also the second competition was about the Bloom stories of implementation. And all those educational resources that were developed in the project are available. In the workshop 6, we invited teachers. They are either from the Bloom School Network or they were winners from the competition. And they will come and share the experiences and discuss gaps, barriers, needs, and entry points in taking up circular sustainable bioeconomy in their classes. The teachers are from Belgium, from Turkey, Israel, Greece, and Spain. And all workshop participants are invited to actively join the discussion. And together we will also collect and rank important recommendations how to better anchor bioeconomy in schools. So we are very happy for everyone that will join us in the workshop. Thanks very much for the attention. And that was all from my side. And I give the word back to Iris.
Yeah, thank you very much, Judith. This was the last of the 6 inputs that we provided you to help you making a choice between the 6 sub-sessions, which all of one gets an own room. And I think we have now 2 challenges. One is that you make your choice to which room and sub-workshop you would like to go. And hopefully also technically this will work. Please, all of you, stay in the main room while you will be directed into the sub-session room, because we will have now 1 hour of workshop in the different rooms. But after the workshop will finish automatically after 60 minutes, you will be automatically redirected to your to the main room where we all meet together. So please don't go out of the main room, but now you can make your choice to enter to one of the different rooms.
I think slowly the remaining panelists should be also come online. So I would actually start now covering up the time a little bit with what we want to discuss here. And I think we have a really amazing mixture of different people and we can discuss the different obstacles. And later on, also Ali from Biobits will join us. So long story short, actually we are talking about synthetic biology and also a little bit what we have done up to now and what we can do in the future better, because to be honest and frank, compared to other parts in the bioeconomy, I think we are doing already a quite amazing job, but we want to discuss how we can advance this. And I think we have a really great mixture from the different angles and also different levels in education. And Jake, I think I will hand over the word first to you to give a short introduction about yourself. For those, just as a little teaser, Jake gave me my introduction into synthetic biology. So what he's talking about, I experienced. So I think it's a really great opportunity to share this experience with you all here. So Jake, it's now your turn.
So I'll start. I'll introduce myself here, just on the off chance that anybody out there in software land can hear me. So my name's Jake. I'm a synthetic biologist. I am a scientist first. I was trained as a synthetic biologist. I have a PhD in systems biology from Harvard University, where I specialized in understanding interactions in microbial communities. So how to program and engineer complex systems like the microbiome. And now I am a research fellow at a place called the CRI, the Center for Research and Interdisciplinarity, in Paris, France. And so this is a master's program, it's a PhD program, and it's an undergraduate program that specializes in interdisciplinary life science education. So we include coursework and research in both informatics and the digital sciences, biology and the life sciences, and also education and the learning sciences. So I'm a group leader there. I run a research lab in synthetic biology, but I also am a teacher there in the master's program. I teach Introduction to Synthetic Biology for first-year master's students. These are specialized life science students. They're in their early 20s, and most of them plan to go on to either do a PhD in systems or synthetic biology, or to start a company or to work in the synthetic biology industry. And so I taught Nico, the organizer of this conference. So that's my claim to fame. He was one of my students, and my interest in synthetic biology education comes from the research side. So my first thought when I think about synthetic biology education is as a mentor, as a research scientist who is looking to train students to do research projects. It's the supervisor-student relationship is the first thing that I think about. And so what that means in practice is that I always try to teach synthetic biology through research. I'm not too interested in teaching students facts that are known. I'm more interested in engaging students in doing research projects that generate new facts and new information. And so it's with that spirit in mind that I've developed an online course called Synthetic Biology 1. And this is it's an open online course. It's free to use. It's a YouTube channel. It's a WordPress course. It's a very basic framework for online education. It's called, but it's Synthetic Biology 1. And if you're interested in online education in synthetic biology, check it out. And it comes from that strategy for teaching synthetic biology of project-based and research-based education. So even though it's videos, it's not in the wet lab, it's not a hands-on course. We haven't figured out how to do that yet through the internet. We try as much as possible to emphasize project-based learning. So we want always to keep the focus on creating, not on learning things, but on doing things and on making things. And that seems to be a successful model so far. It's connected quite well with the YouTube community, and people overwhelmingly seem to prefer these these project-based how-to approaches to learning synthetic biology. And so that's what I like, and that's what I would like to see more of, and that's what I'm hoping to encourage in this panel discussion and in this community.
So I'm Julie Legault. I'm a designer by training, and I got into biotechnology, synthetic biology as an adult. As I was studying at IT Media Lab, I just happened to a workshop that was held for a group of people, and we assembled the DNA program. And that was my first time. It was my first time of pipette. As we are older, synthetic biology, biotech was not a thing that was taught at high school, at least not where I was in Canada. And so that experience was really inspired and really passionate about how synthetic biology and biotech really gives designers and artists like a tool to with. And we've seen in research of biomaterials, which added and Stella McCart, creating these really it's really when I discovered that as a beginner, it's not as easy as just getting those stacks of books and getting access to a regular lab. So I got space biotech at MIT, and it was frightening. We didn't know how to use anything in that lab. So I decided to take a step back and reel back to what this one workshop kitchen me as a beginner, that was something I thought so powerful. And first experience growing bacteria, learning what DNA is, trying to understand, you know what, geos, they're not scary. If I have the language to understand them, I can make my own personal decision in a way that's easier, maybe a little bit rational. So that's where I founded Labs. And so we're a company that does biotech education for teenagers, so K-12 education, although universities are using more remote learning mini labs, and we do home to also learn. So there's a lot of learning going on. And really what we're focusing on is fundamental level. So how do you grow bacteria? What is DNA? How does it work to put DNA inside bacteria and have them color, and really just learn the basics, so that once the students, usually their teachers, once they're at that point, they can join iGen, they can do their science project, or they can choose a career in sciences, or they become a designer, artist, a mom, that just understands genetic engineering is, what tech is, and can navigate the world in a really much better than you know, us adults can right now. So yeah.
Okay, hello. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay, so good afternoon to Germany. So I'm Ron. I am from the National Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology here at the University of the Philippines. So my background is, so by trade, I am a bacterial geneticist. So my training is in molecular microbiology back in New Zealand. And then I moved to Germany for a postdoc, and that's where I actually met Nico, so our moderator. So my contribution, I guess, to synthetic biology education is actually me being a lecturer, or actually I have a laboratory. So I established a laboratory here at the university wherein we have two major research thematics, and that is pretty much one is catering into the fundamental research of how we actually understand bacteria, and actually how we actually grow bacteria, and understand what kind of resistance mechanisms do they have that can thwart viral infections. And then on the other side, harnessing the vast diversity in the genetic ecosystems that we have here in the Philippines. One of the things that I actually want to spearhead is actually understand what are the chemical diversities that are actually found in the different microflora across the different parts of the Philippines, and then be able to convert that into the different, possibly the different chemical scaffolds that can be used in medicine, or even in other industries that could be attractive for those approaches. I'm still a very young scientist, so I've only started my laboratory for the past couple of years, and it's a really good time to be here in the Philippines because there's a lot of more funding, I guess, for research to pioneer. Also, in terms of synthetic bio, there's really not a lot of bioeconomy here in the Philippines because as our economy is, we are mostly an importer. We are mostly adapters of innovations from different countries. So my part, or similar to Jake, is how do we actually engage synthetic bio education is actually capacity building. Be able to actually let the Filipinos understand what is synthetic biology, and let them understand what is the fundamental basic science behind this technology, so that they could actually grasp what is in front of them. So that's my contribution, and I hope that I could impart some of this knowledge and some experiences that I have here in the Philippines to this workshop. Are you there?
Am I muted?
Oh wait. Oh, I think I successfully unmuted.
Ah, I also unmuted now by clicking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Few problems here, so I'm really happy that we have at least 3 of our speakers in the room left. So I think I can take over Nico's role to at least get some information for the people who made it into the room. Yeah, thank you for introducing yourself. Maybe the rest are coming from the waiting room, but I don't think that they will make it because they're really not getting in contact with us. So maybe we can just go on to the first main question. So what skills do you think will be needed for the future bioeconomy? So you're already expert in this field, you are teaching these. Maybe you can give us some main ideas which we can then put together for the final wrap up.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's a very interesting question. But sort of since I know both of the panelists here, I wonder if maybe we can sort of step back a little bit and think about, before we imagine what are the skills that people need. I think an even more foundational question is, what do we imagine the future of the bioeconomy is going to look like?
Okay.
And so it's easy to look at today's bioeconomy and say, well, the future of the bioeconomy is going to look like today's bioeconomy, except bigger. And I think that would be a mistake. I think that's a mistake for a few reasons. So the vision that I have, and I think that of many of my colleagues have, for the future of the bioeconomy, is that it's going to be much more distributed compared to today's bioeconomy, which is quite centralized. It's going to be much more egalitarian compared to today's bioeconomy, which is quite elitist. It's going to be more open compared to today's bioeconomy, which is relatively secretive. And it's going to be a lot faster and a lot cheaper than the bioeconomy that we have today. So that's a hypothesis. That's a prediction of the future. That's something that I don't know to be true, but I think that it's those properties of the bioeconomy are the things that I try to keep in mind first when I imagine the fact that we need to train people for a world that doesn't exist yet. Julie and Ron, do you have any thoughts in that direction? What do you think the economy of the future is going to look like here?
I think you nailed it. I think and you said this before, but we didn't say that it's as important as computers are today. And of course, that are teenagers, even younger than that, creating biotech, creating products that they still already sell. We have teenagers have patents, some bio-innovations that they made, and that's just going to grow in the same way that today one can innovate using digital technologies. In the world of tomorrow, anyone will be able to innovate, and that's also why I was mentioning moms and dads, teachers, and just everyone's going to have to really understand what it means to be in a bio world. So it's not only making sure that we have the bioeconomy run, is to make sure that people who are investing understand what biotech, synthetic biology, what you want to call it, what it is, it means, and how to good you can't really best if I think it's all
So when you should start to educate the future bioeconomist, right from the kindergarten, or?
I mean, I would say from kindergarten, I'm not saying a pipette. We tried that, it didn't work. But definitely we're starting at 8 years old, so they can do their bacteria and understand at 6 years old, understand what DNA was, and what the way it was like, oh, DNA is what makes us alive. I can modify my DNA to get more nutrition. So, you know, it's a simple idea. They're starting to understand it. And I think I remember kids seeing robots, Rubies, and Tachis and being like, okay, AI thing, it's fun, I'm not scared of it. So if we start very young, just giving them the basic language, when they grow up.
For me, like I think in the Philippines, we have a different sort of set of problems to tackle before we could actually even talk about bioeconomy in our country. So if you heard in the news, we just got hit by 2 typhoons back to back. So a bioeconomy would not necessarily be like the top thing that a kid would actually be even considering, because it's not necessarily like I guess you could say the most stable job in terms of like something to consider in the future. So however, I do foresee that while we build capacities and while we build the knowledge-based and technical skills for our, I guess you could say in the university level, we could sort of foresee that that bioeconomy would then start to transform. I do believe that in the Philippines, we still need a lot of like seeding programs to really disseminate what is the possible avenues of biotechnology. And if we're able to do that, and I think that, once the seeds sort of sprout and, after a while, and that's the time that I would actually foresee that then the bioeconomy could potentially be a beginning for the country. But then until then, I think, the university level and that. So I think, to answer that question, considering everything at the moment, somewhere along the senior high school to the undergraduate level, I think that's the best time to strike the iron and say that that's the time that it will be good for them to understand what the synthetic bio would be.
Yeah, so I'm inclined to agree with that. So I think that when do we teach biotechnology today, right? So I think biotechnology in today's world, it begins mostly in undergraduates, right? So it's maybe age 18 when one begins to specialize in what we would call biotechnology. And then the biotechnology professionals, the people who make the big innovations in the biotechnology economy, are usually doing work throughout their PhDs, so into their 20s and 30s. And many of the leaders in the field are even much older still. So the biotechnology entrepreneurship is really it's very rare to see that begin in earnest before age 30. And if you look at most of the leaders of biotechnology startups, they're usually tenured faculty members in their 40s and 50s and even later. And so that's what the scene looks like today. And I think that there's aspiration in the field to move that model into something that looks more like technology entrepreneurship. So there's a dream, right? It's the Silicon Valley teenager, right? Who invents the app in the garage and is able to just sort of through pure youthful enthusiasm to create innovation at an extremely young age and at an extremely fast pace. And you capture that sort of momentum that comes from young people with tremendous amounts of energy being able to really dedicate something to something that they see as new. And so now that's maybe that's a bit unrealistic in the short term. Biology is never going to be as fast as coding an app. but I do think we can make progress in rejuvenating the field, in shifting biotechnology, innovation, and entrepreneurship to younger generations. And I think it's a lot of the same technologies that make biotechnology more accessible, that are going to contribute to capacity building in places where biotechnology is not currently practiced very much. I think they're also going to make it more accessible for a younger generation. So the same sort of tools that make it possible to do biotech in a low resource environment are also going to make it possible to do biotech as a teenager.
Okay.
And I see it. So my fellow panelists are arriving. I'm so excited. Hi guys.
Hi.
Very happy to see you. So Nicolas, I hand over to you again.
Yes, thanks. Sorry. Yeah, technology is even so well-developed technology like the digital one compared to synthetic biology, right? Remains a little bit tricky. So I think we are slowly all arriving, and what is really great. And I missed what Jake was saying, but when I heard the tune, it was already about how entrepreneurship and how we can involve younger generations into kind of the entrepreneurial idea and actually making technology accessible with synthetic biology. And honestly, I want to hand this over really quick. We have Ellie here and Julie, and I will skip a little bit the introduction round, and I think Ellie will introduce herself on the flight a little bit. Technologies like Biobits or the Amino Lab, right, from Julie, do you think they are actually tools to foster creative entrepreneurship in these younger generations to use this as a toolkit? Probably Ellie, you can start.
Yeah, did you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah.
I just jumped in, so I don't entirely know what's going on. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Ali Huan. And basically what you guys are just talking about now, right, the technologies that we can use to bring biology and biotech to low resource areas, instead bring them into classrooms for students to get involved in molecular biology and synthetic biology at a young age, was essentially my entire PhD thesis when I was at MIT. So while I was doing my PhD thesis, I developed Biobits, which is a way of allowing people to make proteins without needing live cells. For being able to do cell-free reactions, making all these reactions a lot easier for students. All they have to do is just add water and whatever DNA they add to the reactions, encoding for whatever proteins. They can make a variety of different proteins, things that are fun, like fluorescent proteins. And basically the goal behind that project was just to, because molecular biology and synthetic biology, like, it looks all really cool when you diagram it all on paper, right? All these arrows and these abstract shapes going everywhere. But in reality, we're mostly just staring at drops of water in tiny tubes, which, for a student learning about this kind of stuff for the first time, they're just like, okay, this doesn't seem that interesting. And so the goal was to try to make molecular biology and synthetic biology a little less abstract and make it more real, make it more fun, make it more engaging. So that was my goal of developing Biobits, allowing students to create things like fluorescent proteins, just like very easily with just a pipette and not needing like shakers or incubators or anything. And currently I brought Biobits after I graduated to Mini PCR Bio, which is a biotech company based out of Boston. They have a bunch of other accessible biotech tools like miniature thermocyclers and miniature gel electrophoresis systems. And we've been working together to try to bring a lot more of these biotech technologies into schools, into classrooms that normally might not be able to access things like that. So yeah, that's my quick background.
Regarding this line, and I think biology is something amazing, right? But sometimes it's a little bit tricky to have the hands-on experience, right? You mentioned biosafety and bioregulations, for example, in Germany. Ron, things like Biobits or something like this for a country of the global south, how things like this are accessible, and what would be your needs to bring hand-on experience into university classroom already, and maybe also moving earlier to high school levels?
Yeah, so actually this is the first time I'm hearing about Biobits and Amino Lab, and I find that very remarkable. I think that would actually be very contributory to the Philippines, because in high school we don't do culturing of bacteria. We don't do any kinds of molecular biology work. A lot of the things that we do are like the typical biology lab classes where you do dissections of frogs. That's to the extent of what we do in the Philippines. So molecular bio is sort of like something that is taboo until you reach undergraduate, and until you do any kind of biochemistry work, that's the time that you actually hear about molecular bio even. So this kind of like tools like the Biobits and Amino Lab, those kind of kits will be very contributory to how we advertise or how we disseminate molecular biology even to the high schoolers. Although there is now clamor for molecular bio, but it's only those top-notch, the cream of the crop students who actually learn about molecular bio during high school because they're in the special ed class. But if you're not in that program, you will never hear about molecular bio here in the Philippines, especially if you're a high schooler.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Justice, you have the background of. Is everyone else now gone again?
Yeah, can everyone still hear and see me? I just suddenly lost everyone's video.
Yes, same for me, Ellie.
I see you, Allie.
Okay, I only see Justice. Oh, you're coming back, I think. There you go.
Yeah.
I was on mute, but now
yeah.
I unmuted, so I'm not sure about my background.
Yeah, don't mute yourself, because
hey, I'm back. Never mute yourself.
Never mute yourself. Basically impossible to unmute yourself ever again. Justice, you have a different background, right? You're a STEM educator, while with an education background rather than a science and SynBio nerd background. How important is it to have hands-on experience with biology, right? I know Julie is a designer, so for a design aspect, I know it's important to have prototypes, right? But in biology, it's sometimes tricky. How important is it actually to have hands-on research experience in STEM education?
So thanks for having me. Really glad to see a lot of these familiar. I think I've interacted and worked with most of you, so that's encouraging and exciting about where the field's going. I will make one correction. I have an undergraduate degree in molecular biology, and I wrote an undergraduate thesis, and I have a bioengineering degree, a master's, where I also conducted research. And so while I do have an extensive background in teaching, more than 10 years at this point, a lot of my academic training is foundational in the sciences. Of course, synthetic biology wasn't around when I started. Now, to answer your question, I think a lot about what we care about as an outcome in learning, right? And a lot of that is cognitive processes, reasoning that's advanced, problem solving, argumentation skills. And while we develop those in practice by carrying out lab activities, we can also achieve them through deliberated discourse and debates, right? And so when I think about where the direction of synthetic biology is going, as a researcher, because I'm a most of you know I'm a newly minted professor here in the United States. When we think about the directions of synthetic biology as a field, we tend to sometimes focus on training and engagement as producers and scientists in the field, but we also know that it's important to train the general public, not only in carrying out labs, but probably more importantly, in understanding and navigating the technologies and their impact on the planet, right? And so without a consumer base, if you want, we've seen, and history has told us, biotechnology sort of falls short. An example being Arctic apples, right? Where consumers were unwilling to or GMOs more generally, people were unwilling to engage with them because they knew very little about them. And so I think to answer your question, there are other things that you can sort of engage students with or learners with beyond like practical lab skills. But more importantly, there's also a need to sort of reach the general public via simulations, conversations, curriculum, learning spaces, and the list goes on.
It's actually it's really a wonderful addition, and I totally agree with you, especially when we think of the potential future that synthetic biology can lead us to, right? And its disruptive nature, it will impact and will be implemented in a lot of different areas, and it should be a societal effort to join on this. Regarding educating the majority, and Julie wrote or was part of this From Zero to Genetic Engineering Hero, and actually we discussed in the last scientific conference, the GCSB, about the Netflix series Biohackers, how low we need to make the burden to bring people into SynBio, and how we need to spark the interest on this. Julie, you did a great job. We don't have to argue about this. And do we want to have something controversy like this? How we get people interested into synthetic biology? And actually, it brings me also a little bit further to that direction. Do we need to have everyone with a basic knowledge of SynBio and genetic engineering? And then we have basically the experts that particular become skilled researchers. And do we need to teach research overall as a concept? I think the Corona crisis showed it greatly, that a research mindset is something that everyone should have it in its basic education included, right? So I have to break it down into parts. How we get people excited about synthetic biology? Do we need something like series or great books? Do we need heroes? Do we need a superhero where his superpower is synthetic biology? So what your guys' opinion is on this?
Yeah, it's something that, I thought about a lot when developing curriculum and developing activities for students. The primary goal is always to get kids excited about science, and hopefully these kids grow up to go into a scientific career or a research career. But not every kid who does a hands-on activity is going to want to go into science. My hope is that the activities are broad enough and general enough that, even if the student isn't excited about going into STEM, they at least understand, the basic molecular biology behind the activities they're doing. At least they understand, what DNA is, especially in the US, especially with the pandemic going on. It's very clear that there is a huge gap in terms of scientific literacy. Probably not just here, but elsewhere in the world. There's a lot of misconceptions around just very basic biology that we all should have learned at the high school level, and it kind of goes back to learning straight from textbooks or learning straight from lectures isn't all that interesting. But if you can get something into the students' hands, they can actually see it with their eyes, they can actually understand what's going on, even if they don't develop an interest in going into that field. The hope is that they retain that knowledge, so when they grow up, they can make personal decisions, or if they go into politics, they can make policy decisions based on real science. And kind of adding on to that, the research and the experimental part, I feel like is also equally as important as the biological concepts, right? To be able to interpret data and understand statistics and all that. So I feel like, besides just learning about it through hands-on activity, the scientific method, research methodology, that's also really important to include when you're teaching kids about science, just because they can interpret these statistics they hear in the news and not make wild misconceptions off of them.
Yeah. So
I would just add ethics. Sorry, I just wanted to say ethics. So teaching the ethics of the other part of it, and I think that I see a lot of nodding. So I think we agree the ethics important.
As I see unfortunately our timer is running, I want to bring up something else into the discussion. Jake, you're decades, or it feels like decades in iGEM, right? And a lot of experiences are done there. Do you think synthetic biology as a field is going in the right direction when you zoom out and look at this. And then after Jake was commenting, I would like to hear Justice. Do you think synthetic biology is doing slightly better or slightly worse compared to other STEM disciplines of engaging with the public, but also bringing this into younger generations? So I want to hear kind of an overview of a short history. Did we do good, and then do we do better or worse compared to others, and what others could learn from experience like we have with iGEM or learning through research, Biobits, and other things like this. So Jake.
Yeah, so iGEM is definitely doing a lot right. And so if people are not familiar with iGEM, this is a very widespread, popular undergraduate synthetic biology competition. It's teams of undergraduates do genetic engineering projects over the course of the summer, and they build websites to publicize them, and they share their data. And it's, in many ways, it's a very interesting model for the field, and it's also quite unique to synthetic biology. There aren't extremely comparable models in other fields. And so iGEM is, in many ways, it's trying to solve all of these problems at once. It's trying to cultivate an elite expert class of synthetic biologists who will be the entrepreneurs of the future, who will be the next generation of expert researchers, and who are going to do very high-end work in the academic and the industrial world. It's also trying to prioritize engaging synthetic biology with people who are not expert researchers. So these student iGEM teams are very strongly encouraged to have conversations with their community, to find ways to connect with the public, to communicate their research with the public, to listen to the public in order to prioritize their particular research agenda, and to address this important issue that we all know exists of widespread public skepticism towards GMOs and biotechnology, often a justified skepticism, in my opinion. And so iGEM is quite interesting in that sense that it's trying to do everything at once. We're teaching young people, we're teaching them expert level concepts. We're also telling them to do it in the open, do it with the public, right? So they call it human practices. And as far as I know, this is really the most innovative model in terms of training new scientists in a way that incorporates sort of a public consciousness in the way that they do their research. So I think it's a very good model. I think it's something we should all be paying attention to.
Justice, something to add on this, and could we implement things like synthetic biology or open science and having designers, for example, engaging with researchers? Do you see this in other disciplines, in other STEM sciences, other STEM disciplines as well? Do we do better?
I think 5 seconds left, so I'll say.
I'm just back from. I just managed to come back from the workshop sessions. From the sub-workshop session, and unfortunately
we discussed just very briefly after then the session was stopped, that actually we think that settings like in synthetic biology very big is actually iGEM, the student competition where they compete with research projects with each other, could be a very, very valuable and important part to transfer and to also implement for other parts within the bioeconomy. most important, what we discussed was also having a very broad and wide understanding of synthetic biology, genetic engineering, and the bioeconomy in the general public, and also allowing them, especially for research topics, to gain hands-on experiences, for example, in schools and in further education settings. As a we crystallized that the field of bioentrepreneurs is rather old when we look at in terms of age, and what we crystallized as an important task is of having more younger generation people into innovative bioproducts and bioinnovation, and allowing them the possibility to make it easier accessible to conduct their research and to transfer their research into actually real products that can foster and be part of the global bioeconomy. And especially the momentum should be used for people in the global south, where we want to, and where we crystallize the need to give them the ability for hands-on experiences, but also educational tools to educate themselves further, to be part of the growing bioeconomy.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for the summary, and we are looking forward to your report. Thanks, Nicolas. And the second sub-session workshop was with Han and Inga. I don't know who will be. I see Inga is typing. Somebody who will report or could report shortly. Oh, it did not work and did not happen. Oh my gosh. Sorry for that. Then I think I will go ahead and look into our workshop. Our workshop number 3, actually, we were very creative, using all kinds of tools to report, to discuss. And I don't know if Jan, if I may ask you to. No, I'm not sure if I can. Can I ask you to say some?
I cannot unmute myself.
You can't unmute yourself. Or Sophie, is Sophie there? Oh, she can't also unmute. So I'm afraid my co-moderators can't somehow join. Okay, then I'll make it short. We had finally our 3 contributions from 3 speakers who showed that it is important, or that somehow the system changer education is also and sustainability education, which would be important to have also for economists. And we developed in the background on a Miro board a lot of ideas actually on 2 questions that we were talking about here, about what kind of skills such system changers may have. And I think that we will share that with you after the workshop, when we have the time to look at the manifold ideas that we actually received on the Miro board. And thanks for that to the participants. Okay, then I would like to look into sub-workshop D. I don't know who of 4. I don't know if who will report, if that is Roland, or who will be reporting. Would be good that the person, or Inga is coming here.
Roland was not able to join either. So also in the other workshop, it was really a huge mess. Many people could not join, but I think the workshop happened at least. So no, so in 4, few participants talked between each other, but there was no workshop happening because neither the speaker nor the co-moderator could join. So also 4 was more or less skipped. And I have no clue about 5. I had a look that there haven't been too many in, and I know Simon was not able to join here. So Mona, maybe you can report on that.
Yes, something at least. Yeah, we were not that many, but it was like the quality, not the quantity, I think. So we had excellent talks after all. Unfortunately, the last speaker we had, it would have been very interesting to hear the South American or Middle American opinion about the education in bioeconomy. We just ran out of time. There were a lot of problems in the beginning. But we discussed about the regional strategies and the regional governance, like shaping the education where we want to take it. So we had different kind of perspective, transdisciplinary approach, and a more specialized, embedded circular bioeconomy point of view, and also a speech about the global bioeconomy program. So it was good, but we will also continue in a Zoom or something later on. We totally missed the discussion. We had good presentations.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mona, for that. And yeah. Then we have one session left where I know that that Judith is around. That Judith, are you there? Is there anything to report from your sub-workshop? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have the next, the next workshop, the same workshop again on Wednesday. However, there will also be a limited number of participants, I think, only be able to join. So we will see how we can manage. But it was really a pity because we had so many participants and we also had a good discussion. And fortunately, we in our session had the mirror board, and by the number of contributions, I see how active you all were. So I'm a little bit sorry also for that. It went so difficult. But thanks a lot for everybody who gave a presentation and who stayed with us throughout the sub-sessions and until now. We will try to report as much as possible and keep you online also and keep you updated with the outcome of that. Thanks a lot. And maybe, I don't know, Inga, if maybe some of you we will see back, or definitely the presenters on the next workshop, and then hopefully things would work technically better.
And what I perhaps can recommend or ask you for, at least to those who are still in, maybe you can contact your sub-session moderator and ask them to be interested in really having maybe a separate meeting so that we perhaps really can organize something as a sidekick, at least for as it did not happen at all. And there are others who did not really start at all. When you are interested to repeat it or to have it in a separate way, please just contact your moderators and maybe we can do something, because I would be really interested in discussing with you the different topics. And again, thanks a lot for all of you, also from my side, for joining and supporting us. And it was a little bit of pity, but yeah, let's see whether it works on Wednesday or whether we have a chance to meet elsewhere and discuss these very important topics. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, thanks a lot to everybody and have a nice evening and a nice rest, and hope to meet you again anytime this week on the Global Bioeconomy Summit.
So, bye.